Hi, I'm Nigel Campbell with In the Moment in Bed. I play Kylan in the Moment. And today at Weho Gay Pride, I'm in bed with Big Daddy Ron.
Isn't that unique? A handsome man and me in bed.
So, Ron, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Trust me, my pleasure.
My first question for you today is, HIV really became prevalent about a little over 25 years ago. And so my question for you is, do you feel like there has been a change in the perception of HIV in the last 25 years?
I think that it's been a progression. As I might have mentioned, I was the founder of the Mother Cares Foundation in the early 80s with Zelda Rubinstein, who had a little spatula and said, "Be safe," and we were pleading abstinence at that point. I then was chairman and president of the Foundation for Educational Research and Labor Day LA, and we raised millions of dollars for AIDS prevention. And then eventually I became president and chairman of the board of Caring for Babies with AIDS, and have helped with all the charities, APLA, etc. During the 80s and even early 90s, the face of AIDS was very horrifying. I delivered probably over 300 eulogies to people who passed away with AIDS. And of course, it moved me substantially and still does. The problem is, at the moment, the perception of AIDS is something that has very little face to it. Children are not afraid of it, young people are not afraid of it, the community is not afraid of it, and the recent statistics indicate that HIV has increased in Los Angeles, I believe, by 50% over the last year amongst people who are under 25. Everyone thinks that this disease is cured. It is not cured. It just appears cured. And so, yes, the perception is in fact changed, and the government is not funding as much as it should, and the efforts are not strong enough to find a cure, in my position.
Thank you for the answer. So, I mean, obviously you have done a lot of work in terms of spreading awareness and in terms of prevention over the years. In terms of, I guess, your group of friends, what's the conversation like? What's the dialogue like, you know, with regards to HIV prevention and safe sex at this point? I mean, obviously the perceptions change, but what is the dialogue between, you know, you and your peer group?
I think that the dialogue amongst my peer group, which is widespread, is that people are not getting it. They think that there's that the matter is over, and it is not, and they're upset at the government for not continuing to fund, and they're upset at people for not contributing. The economy is in a slump, and people don't think that their money is necessary. It's just as critical now as it was before, and even more so because the disease has sort of gone stealth, and that's not a good thing. And so people like your organization and others need to raise awareness again, especially amongst people of your young and handsome age group, so that you understand that, in fact, this is a deadly disease, it's a terminal disease, and it can change your life, and it will kill you earlier than you should die.
So at this point, you feel like the way to prevent the spread of HIV is to increase awareness. Outside of that, like, what other specific tips could you give us? What would you tell someone to do in order to be safe and to live a long and healthy life?
To the extent that you are HIV negative and have avoided the disease, obviously the first line of defense is be very careful with whom you sleep. The theory of abstinence is an interesting one, but probably not practical for most people, especially gay men. But in the alternative, then obviously you play as safely as you can. And the term play safe is sort of a misnomer, because there is no true, pure safeness, and that is something that people have to understand. So condoms break and fluids mix, and therefore you have to try to prevent the disease from transmitting as much as you can. You also have to know the nature of the transmission. So that being said, educate yourself and play safely. And finally, when you get into a relationship, try to remain monogamous, which I believe is clearly possible. I have all of my life in my relationships, and that's why I believe I've been blessed with my current state of health. And at that point in time, even so, then you make a decision between the partners as to whether or not you trust each other implicitly enough to go outside the boundaries of certain precautions. But that's a personal decision and something only two people can decide. And be very careful before you make that decision, because the gift that is given may be the gift that lasts forever, and it's not a gift at all.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for your time, for answering my questions, and thank you for all the work that you've done over the years. It's so appreciated. Thank you.
It is my pleasure to help my community and to try to help others, and thank you for your work as well.